So the next phase is describing the high-level product specs, okay? So what you want to do is be able to convey to your customer exactly what your product does, why it's better than what they have already, kind of what it looks like. Okay, so you can think of it as being a flyer. The flyer describes the product and what it does, how it compares to what they have already, whether that's savings on cost or savings on time or savings on whatever, and then you're giving them some indication of what it looks like. All right? So it's important that it describes all that because, again, this doesn't mean anything when you see some kind of thing. You need to explain more around that. But more importantly, and it doesn't really show it here, like you're just showing lots of different people who are interpreting lots of different things from this. The high-level specification is not just for your customer, but it's also for your team. Because you need to be able to agree as a team what your product is, why it's better than what's out there, and what it will look like. So essentially it gets everybody onto the same page, and it is a one-page thing. You haven't built anything yet, but you're showing what it looks like and what the value proposition will be to the user. And therefore, you as co-founders will know what it is. Your salespeople will know what it is when they're trying to sell it to somebody else. The people who are building it within your team will know what it is. Everybody knows what it is, okay? And even on your website, this will show exactly to the customer what they're getting, right? So it's very important to not build anything yet, but you build your product brochure, all right? So it's quite an important step. So I mentioned IKEA earlier on, and actually one of the things this helps do is avoid there's many IKEA effects, but does anybody know what the IKEA effect will be in relation to this? Sure, Suraj does, because he's heard this before. Anyone know what the IKEA effect is? Apart from going into the shop and buying more than you intended to buy, because it's flat packed is another effect. Well, I'll tell you the one that's related to this, and this is, again, very much I'm an engineer by background, so very much for techies, but when you build something, you love it more than somebody else does, okay? So when you go into IKEA and you buy your table, and you bring it home, and you put it together, and you scratch it, and then there's pieces left over on the floor, and you love it a lot more than somebody else would. So I would be very happy with my IKEA table, but if I tried to sell it to Suraj, he probably wouldn't be that happy with it, okay? So the premise is that you love your product a lot more than other people love it, okay? And this happens all the time, especially with techies. They rush into building something, and then they go and show it to the customer. The customer goes, meh. So what you want to do is make sure that the customer is in agreement with what you're creating before you create it.